At 46mm in diameter, with a thickness of 16.3mm, and an impressive water resistance of 600 meters, the Seastar 2000 is Tissot's deep-sea giant, but there's a lot more to this watch besides its large size and professional specifications. Welcome to Dial Odyssey, a channel dedicated to exploring the world of watch dial designs. Every millimeter of this watch has been purpose-built to endure the unforgiving deep-sea environment. In fact, its impressive adaptations for the deep sea have clearly influenced its designs. For example, we can see here the subtly installed helium escape valve at 9 o'clock, a crucial mechanism that expels accumulated helium which protects the watch's integrity during deep-sea decompression. And of course, the rotating bezel is another iconic yet essential feature of the diver watch. It's designed to help you track elapsed time during dives by aligning the marker with the minute hand. Typically, these bezels are unidirectional and turn counterclockwise, as any unintentional adjustment just displays less time, acting as a safety guard against underestimating air supply and dive duration. To handle deep-sea pressure, the watch sports a domed crystal, which reinforces durability in high-pressure environments while enhancing dial visibility when submerged. Few would dispute that the Seastar 2000 qualifies as a true diver's tool, with its competitive stats comparable to some of the top diver watches out there and its price tag of £1,060. It offers exceptional value. But of course, this is by no means a cheap watch, but the value it delivers truly positions it uniquely in the market. But for me, the main appeal and real beauty of the Seastar 2000 is its stunning wave motif dial. It's important to note that the Seastar 2000 isn't the only dial to feature a wave pattern, but I absolutely love this design. Plus, I will eventually review all the other ocean textured dials at some point. The Seastar has a wonderfully balanced dial, where it's deep, rich, and complex, yet not too distracting, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. But for now, on your left, you will see a digital twin of the Seastar 2000. This will allow us to have a more detailed look at the watch's design. First, let's strip back all the features and just focus on the dial motif for now. You can immediately see that the ocean pattern on the dial is rather complex, with the areas highlighted in blue being the section of the dial that has been carved out. But to be honest, seeing it from this perspective has changed my thoughts on the design, because when I first saw the watch in person, I thought that the pattern was trying to symbolize a calm and gentle swaying ocean surface. But seeing it like this, I realized there's so much more energy in its design. And part of that beauty comes from its stunning radial gradient used on the dial. At its center, there's a vibrant, almost electric teal and turquoise hue that then slowly expands into the black abyss. In fact, the radial positioning of the colors going from dark to light really draws you into the watch and creates a strong focal point at the center of the dial. But let's look even closer and zoom in so that we can truly immerse ourselves in this oceanic composition. Now, at this level of magnification, the first thing that I noticed was how the metal dial was not completely flat nor smooth. If you look carefully, it's got very fine vertical brushing, which I find really helps reflect and sparkle in the light, just like the ocean surface. We can also see how the motif is really brought to life thanks to the relatively deep engraving, which adds an incredible amount of depth to such a small pattern. And at this level of zoom, you almost get a sense of what it would be like flying across a stormy ocean surface. The wave patterns are generally a series of interconnected horizontal streaks that loop into each other with a few independently placed streaks, all of which taper into sharper and thinner lines at their endpoints as well as the corners. Something I'm a really big fan of is how the weights of the lines are not uniform. Instead, they tend to get a little bit wider just before two lines converge into one. Watches like this is why I really love textured or artistically complex dials. It just adds so much more to the watch. And while we're down here, of course we have to say hello to the beating heart of this deep sea giant, which is an ETA movement with an impressive and handy 80-hour power reserve. It's a nicely finished movement which also features some elegant wave-like designs on the Tissot rotor. I also love how the back sapphire display glass is neatly framed on a slightly raised steel section with a series of 3 deeply engraved circular lines. This adds a bit of an industrial feel, which nicely complements the general practicality and tool-like purpose of the watch. Earlier, I mentioned that despite the dial being rich in its design elements, it wasn't too distracting when trying to tell the time. All watches need to be easily legible, but with a dive watch, legibility is critical, especially as you may be using a watch in a deep dark ocean where visibility will be limited. Taking a deeper look into the Seastar, like most dive watches, we see the hour markers are circular, with the exception of the 3, 6 and 9 o'clock, which are rectangular. The 6 o'clock, however, is slightly shorter than the others, as above it sits the date window. Another detail I really like about this watch is how they've maintained dial symmetry by having the date window placed at 6 o'clock rather than the 3 o'clock location. To complement the large circular and rectangular hour markers, the Seastar 2000 has broad pencil-styled hour and minute hands, both of which have tails that neatly taper off to a narrower base at a fairly steep 50-degree angle, which gives a real sharpness to the design. The second hand is uniquely crafted, featuring the Tissot T as a counterweight, with a small yet easily visible luminous disc at its tip. Moving on to the bezel, I noticed that the downward pointing triangle that sits above the 12 o'clock hour marker is the same size as the triangle in the dial. It may appear smaller, but this is due to the triangle in the dial sitting in a metal frame like the other hour markers. This is another great example of Tissot's attention to detail. But there is one more thing about this watch that really elevates and enhances the dial to an entirely new level, and that is its lume. It's simply epic on this watch. I especially love the very subtle blue hues in the color, which of course wonderfully complements the overall aesthetic of the watch. The type of lume used is superluminova, and it has generous coating on the watch's hand and hour markers with a small amount on the bezel. All in all, there are so many aspects of the Seastar 2000 that really help create an easily legible watch, regardless of whatever environment you're in. You'd never need to look twice in order to tell the time, but with a dial as wonderful as this, why wouldn't you? If you're in the market for a real hardcore diver tool watch, honestly, look no further. It's hard to beat on many fronts. Tissot designed a real winner here. Yes, perhaps at 46mm it's a little too wide for some, but with this watch at this size, you'll have so much fun telling the time as you gaze into your very own deep sea portal on your wrist, transporting you to the wonders of the ocean. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you very much for your time. I'd love to know in the comment section what are some of your favorite dials, and potentially what dials would you like me to review next. Stay tuned for the next episode and see you next time.